Hello, my name is Margaret Dominguez. Let me start by talking a little bit about who I am and where I'm from. I'm originally from Mexico, from a small town in southern Mexico called Tecamachalco, Puebla. I was born and raised there, and my parents and my sisters still live there. I try to visit them as often as I can. I am a jazzercise instructor, which is a dance fitness activity that helps me stay active, and it's actually also a lot of fun. And I do that a few times a week. But in the real world, or my day job, I am a NASA optical engineer. That means that I get to build space telescopes, that I get to be part of the team that launched them up into space. And if some of you saw, very recently, we just had a very successful launch from Florida through one of the SpaceX rockets out to the International Space Station. So very exciting times for NASA as we continue to strive as best we can given the current pandemic. So let me talk to you a little bit about my job as an optical engineer. And before that, I want to talk about what is optics. And whenever I talk about what I do at NASA, I always start by saying what optics is, because maybe you guys didn't know that a profession exists that is called optical engineering. I actually got my master's and my PhD in optical engineering. You can do that at a few universities in the US. So as an optical engineer, just like everybody else in the world, I have to check my email every day, but I also get to go into the lab and actually build things. And I'm very excited to share with you guys today that I'm actually working on building a component which is going to be part of a telescope that is going to be launched into space in 2025. That 2 weeks ago, that telescope was called WFIRST, the Wide Field Infrared Survey Telescope. But actually last week, NASA headquarters just renamed the telescope, and it is now the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, which is fascinating. She was a NASA astronomer that started working at NASA 2 years after NASA was created over 60 years ago. And she unfortunately passed away 2 years ago, so she wasn't able to see this wonderful event take place where she had a space telescope named after her. It's very, very common that space telescopes get named after people, so maybe some of you guys are familiar with Hubble or James Webb. The first name of that telescope was a technical name that described their function, just like WFIRST. But then they changed the name to a person to honor that person because they had a significant contribution to making that telescope possible. And Nancy Grace Roman was an astronomer that is actually known to be the mother of Hubble. So her role at NASA was so fundamental that without her, maybe Hubble wouldn't have been possible. And today I work on a space telescope that is named after this female astronomer. And that is just unprecedented and so, so cool. I'm so lucky to be part of that team at NASA. So as part of what I do, building this component, which is called GRISM, which is a combination of a grating and a prism, and is an optical component. I mentioned before, I'm an optical engineer, so I build optical instruments and they have optical components. Optics is a natural science that studies light. So the interaction of light with everything around it, with lenses, with mirrors, with just surfaces that absorb it and maybe just reflect a little bit. Light is all around us, and we have light of different colors and light that we can't even see with our naked eye. But all of the interaction of light with anything else is studied by optical engineers. So because we understand light very well, we can design and then build optical instruments. So I'm building this GRISM, which is a little bit smaller than the size of my head. And this is going to be a component, an instrument that's going to go inside the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, and we're going to launch it into space. It's going to go 1 million miles away from the Earth, very, very close to James Webb. For those of you out there that are familiar with James Webb, which is going to be launched next year, it's going to go very, very far away, and it's going to be orbiting around the sun. So similar to our planet that's orbiting around the sun, it will be orbiting around the sun, and it'll be looking at the early universe. It's going to have a field of view 100 times greater than the field of view of Hubble. So for those of you out there that have seen these beautiful pictures taken by Hubble, first will be able to take pictures 100 times larger in size. So it will be able to see that much more of the universe, which is very exciting, but in a different wavelength than Hubble did. So Hubble operates in the visible spectrum and the ultraviolet spectrum, so a specific part of the spectrum. First, or Nancy Grace Roman, will be operating in the infrared, so a different part of the light, so we'll be able to see different parts of the universe with the two different space telescopes, and this will allow them to complement each other, which is extremely, extremely important. So in my everyday life, just like all of us, I go into NASA, and when it's open and operational, and I check my email, I communicate with a lot of other engineers from different disciplines, because that is extremely important. We're constantly collaborating, and being able to communicate my thoughts in an elegant way is extremely important. So I'm constantly communicating with a lot of coworkers, and NASA can only do successful launches with collaboration. It's a constant collaboration with other universities, with other agencies, with other space organizations that exist outside of the US as well. So communication and collaboration is critical. So I spent some time communicating with my colleagues, but I actually spent a lot of time in the lab. I love to put things together, put optical components together. Of course, I need to be able to have everything happen very orderly, and I work with a lot of people with other disciplines. So I'll be in the lab, and there'll be mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, cryogenic engineers, thermal engineers, people from all different disciplines, and we all come together to build and check and recheck that whatever we're doing is done very, very well. And we do it with a very, very accurate precision. So can you guys imagine if you took one hair, the thickness of your hair is 50 microns. At NASA, I'm able to measure the accuracy of the performance of my optical system. Imagine you divide that, the thickness of your hair, in 1,000. Imagine 1,000 the thickness of your hair. It is very, 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 very small. And that's how precisely I can take measurements in the lab at NASA. So we have to pay a lot of attention to what we're doing, and work together and work well. So that's a little bit of what I do on my daily job, and I love it. It's very exciting. And I'm excited to be able to share that with you guys. Now let me switch a little bit and talk about some programs that exist out there that facilitate people going into STEM careers. And there are two programs that are close to my heart that I have been part of for many years now. One is called Tecnolochicas, and the other one is called Latina Cycles. And these are two platforms that are very important to me. I was selected to be a Tecnolochica. And this was a platform that specifically focuses on recruiting Latina young females into STEM careers. And that's not to say that I don't want to recruit any men. I want to recruit anybody who is interested in studying STEM. Please come talk to me. I would love to recruit you, and to even take it a step further, I would love to recruit you to become an optical engineer so you can take on over my job whenever I retire in a few decades. So through these two platforms, Tecnolochicas and Latina Side Girls, I am able to share my passion for optical engineering, talk about what I do at NASA, and specifically focus on recruiting middle school and elementary school young Latina female girls to be able to come into STEM, just so that they know that STEM is an option. If they decide to pursue a field in STEM, that they have a future, and that we need them. We need more people in general to be able to come into STEM fields. So through these two platforms, I'm able to spread this message, share my excitement, and focus on recruitment. And that's why I'm also here today, you guys, to be able to talk to you about what I do. And I'm very excited that I was invited to be part of STEM Without Boundaries. This is amazing that these efforts exist out there, that these platforms are in place to be able to reach more people so that I can share my passion, and hopefully it's infectious enough to be able to say, hey, optical engineering, that sounds kind of cool. What is this about? And you can start looking into that, because it's a wonderful profession that is extremely rewarding, where I get to build things that are going to go out into space. It's amazing. I'm constantly thinking to myself, like, this is so cool. So my journey to where I am now is definitely not what I expected. And I'm not sure what I expected, but when I was living in Mexico as a child, people will ask me sometimes, did you know you wanted to work at NASA? And no, I had no idea. I had seen NASA sort of like in the movies. But that was it. And never did I think when I was a child that I could end up working at NASA. This is it's like a dream come true, but it's a dream that I developed later on, almost as an adult. It's not a dream that I had as a child, because I didn't know that was even an opportunity. I didn't know that was something that I could grasp. And even when I applied to a NASA internship 10 years ago, never did I think that I would be accepted. I studied at this tiny little school in Mexico where the number of students, the school from pre-K to high school was 150 students. That was the size of this school from pre-K to high school. We were just a tiny school. And I studied physics in Mexico. So I'm like, nobody knows my university. Nobody knows the name of my high school. Can people even pronounce the name of my town, Tecamachalco? And I applied because I was like, I have to apply. I have to do something that makes me feel that I did what I could to reach out to something that sounds amazing. So I applied just because why not? Because there was an opportunity to apply. So I did. Never thinking that it would happen. And that door opened. And once I was there, I took advantage of that every day. I worked really hard. And when there was an opening for a real job, my colleagues approached me and said, Margaret, we've really enjoyed working with you. You're a hard worker, you're smart. You should apply for that job. So again, one thing leads to the next. And it's only because of hard work, communication, and opportunities that you're able to open one door after the other. I love this definition of luck. That people say, oh, you're lucky. But I like to say this definition, that luck is the interception of preparation and opportunity. So if an opportunity comes to you, but you're not prepared, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it. So we have to constantly be prepared so that when opportunities arise, we can go and pursue them. So I encourage you guys that are out there listening to me today that you prepare yourselves, because there are so many opportunities out there, and NASA is always looking to recruit new talent. And for those of you out there that want to apply, go online, look at nasa.gov internships, and you're going to be able to apply to any of the different NASA centers that we have spread out through the US, where we have tens of thousands of people working. We are hiring hundreds of interns every spring, summer, and fall. Even during the pandemic, we are continuing to hire interns because we need them. We are still doing very important work, and we need to continue to hire more people to help us. There simply isn't enough of us, and there is a lot of work to do. So even though my journey led me, I started my journey not knowing what I was going to do, I'm very happy to be here today, to be working on an exciting space telescope, to be recruiting future STEM people through Latina Side Girls, through Tecnolochicas, and through opportunities like today, STEM Without Boundaries.